Hello, Dave here with emergencyprepguy.com. I appreciate you stopping by. In today's video, I wanted to talk for a minute about, from an emergency preparedness standpoint, should you or should you not raise meat rabbits? Obviously, if you're preparing for an emergency, especially the possibility of some sort of an extended emergency, there's not much more important to have prepared than food, water, fuel, those types of things. You should be storing things that are cheap, that can store a really long time, like wheat, beans, flour, those kinds of things. But I think you should also be storing dried, freeze-dried, or canned prepared meals, fruits and vegetables, like I said, meats, those kinds of things. And depending on how long the crisis is and depending on how much you have stored, you may or may not run out of those things in a crisis. But even if you don't, especially if it's an extended crisis, that's really hard on a family or a person's morale and psyche. And it really helps if you have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, things that bring back some, well, one, they're more healthy, but also they bring back some sense of normality, and also fresh meats, those kinds of things. So I think being able to raise your own in a garden and in your yard, fresh fruits and vegetables and meats, I think is a super, super important part of preparedness. So you should definitely be storing seeds and those kinds of things as well. And I don't think you should depend on just have all your eggs in one basket. In other words, you shouldn't just be, if you can help it, if your space is limited, then do what you can. But I think you should have more than one way to raise your own meat. Like, for example, I have meat rabbits, I have quail, I have chickens, and that sort of thing. I really can't have beef or anything here in a neighborhood, obviously. So let's talk about rabbits, why they would be a good thing to raise. I raised my wife and I raised 4 children, and very easily we could have supplied all the meat that we needed with a couple of does and a buck, with like 3 meat rabbits. If you think about it, your doe, her gestation period is about 30 days, really closer to 32 days, and you could breed her as soon as 4 weeks, when the babies are 4 weeks old. You're going to wean the babies. They getting dripped on here. you can wean the babies when they're 6 weeks old, and then you process them when they're about 8 or 9 weeks old, when they're about 5 pounds each. And so the turnaround time is really quick. Literally, each doe could raise somewhere between 4 to 6 litters a year, depending on whether or not you want to breed her every 60 days or every 90 days. Some people like to give the rabbits a little bit more of a break than that. And then the average litter size, they say, is about 7 to be conservative. It's anywhere from 3 or 4 to 15 kits in a litter. And so they call the rabbit babies, kits. And so, but let's use that conservative number of 7. Let's say that your rabbit averages 7 babies that survive, and let's be conservative on how many times you breed her. Let's say 5 times a year. That's 35 5-pound rabbits that you can process each year. So 35 times 5, that's 175 pounds of meat, just from one buck and one doe. That if you have a couple of does, you can do multiples of that. So I mean, literally, that's a lot of meat that you can raise. And the nice thing about rabbits, like quail, rabbits you can get dripped on. Rabbits it's not really raining, it's just kind of misty. But the trees, it rained a little bit ago and the trees are wet. And so as I'm standing here filming this, I'm getting dripped on. Apologize for that. But like quail, you can literally raise rabbits in an apartment. Lots of people do that. Rabbits are super smart, and you can even train them to be litter box trained like a cat. Now, you're not going to want to ever butcher your pets. I get kind of attached to the does and the bucks. I'm not ever going to butcher them. That's why I try not to get attached to the kits, the babies. I don't name them or anything like that. So, but literally, you can raise a couple of rabbits in your house really easily, and you can raise the litter of babies and process them. They reproduce like rabbits. So you can literally provide your meat just with that one source. Again, I recommend multiple sources if you can. Just in case something goes wrong with one area, you've got a backup plan. As far as the meat, rabbit tastes just like chicken. It's like a skinless chicken. So when you're cooking it, you want to plan on cooking it like you would skinless chicken. Otherwise it'll come out too dry. But literally any recipe any recipe that you would cook chicken in, or any recipe for chicken you can use rabbit in, is what I'm trying to say. So I hope that gives you something to think about. I hope that was beneficial to you. I appreciate you watching the video all the way to the end. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you in the next video.